Okay, again, we are live. We'll call the Willmar City Council meeting for Monday, August 6th to order. Roll call.
Mayor Calvin.
Here.
Councilmember Nelson. Here. Christensen.
Here.
Schwantes.
Here.
Alvarado.
Here.
Osmus.
Here.
Maskey.
Here.
Plowman.
Here.
Fagerly. 8 present, 1 absent.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any proposed additions or deletions to the agenda as presented?
We have 2 additions to be brought forward from the work session. First one is the non-union base pay and health insurance for 2018 through 2020. And number 2 is the Duluth Lake Superior Lighthouse.
With those 2 additions, anything else for the agenda? Seeing and hearing none, I'll accept the motion to accept the amended agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is consent items. Ms. Thompson.
On tonight's consent agenda for council's approval are the city council meeting minutes of July 16th, Willmar Municipal Utility Board minutes of July 23rd, Caris Health Rice Memorial Hospital Board minutes of July 16th, Planning Commission minutes of July 18th, application for exempt permit for the Willmar High School trap team, an application for exempt permit for West Central Ducks Unlimited, an application for exempt permit for the Knights of Columbus, a resolution accepting Centerpoint Energy Community Partnership Grant, state temporary liquor permit for the Foxhole Brew House, and for council's acceptance is a building report for the month of June and the accounts payable July 12 through August 1, 2018. Also for council's information is an application to the Human Rights Commission for Lilblon Clark IV.
Motion to approve the consent agenda items.
I'd like to pull D, Planning Commission minutes of July 18th, 2018, please.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
There's motion been made and seconded. Councilmember Osmus.
I would like to pull K, accounts payable, July 12th through August 1st.
Okay. Anything else? With the exceptions of items D and K, roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Fagerly. Oops. 7 ayes, 0 nays.
And that roll call passes. Councilmember Fagerly is not in attendance, so we don't have to call his name. Planning Commission minutes of July 18th. Councilmember Alvarado.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Mr. Peterson. Now, I read that they're going to be putting some lighting for the schools. Is everyone going over at the Garfield?
Lighting or signage?
Signage.
Signage, yes.
Okay.
That is
and I understood in the minutes that, are they going to be dimmed down or during certain hours? Is that what I'm understanding?
I don't recall that. They're pretty unobtrusive even when they're lit. There's not a lot of candle power to those things. It's basically just backlit signage. But that's a possibility. It probably could be if that's a big concern.
Okay, I just want to, I was just concerned about that. And I was also wondering about the privacy fencing and how that's progressing for the Dairy Queen and the Quick Trip.
We are having too many conversations with the property owner to accomplish it. He's been moving very slowly, he just hasn't complied with orders, and we're pondering our next steps. Quick Trip next door has their fencing up behind them, and we're a little frustrated with this other property owner not getting his work done. So we are aware of it, and in fact, we talked about it this afternoon, Sarah and I did, so.
Okay,
try to figure out what to do next.
okay,
The soft sell has not worked. So
okay. Thank you.
Mr. Peterson, I drove by there today and there was the white fencing. That's not the fencing that he's talking about? There was a white fencing up along that whole area?
behind the Dairy Queen, okay,
Right.
then that's gone up since last Thursday.
Yeah, there was white fencing up there. I don't know, did you go by
Okay.
there today?
Not
Well, that
today.
would make me very happy if that's true. You know, when we talked about it this afternoon, we both said we didn't know what had changed since last week, and apparently something has. So we'll take a look at that tomorrow, and maybe it's a non-issue at this point. That'd be great if it was.
Yeah, there was a white fence back there, because I saw it in the minutes, and so I drove by both properties today
Yeah.
to look at them. And I've seen a white fence there, but I didn't know if that was something that had been there before. It looks to be about a 6 or 7 foot fence.
No, that would be new.
Okay.
So that's good news.
And there is 2 holes in it, is the only thing, and that's what I was wondering if that was the question. There's 2 spaces that there's not fencing material on them.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what that is and why that's the case. It's supposed to be solid screening anytime there's a transition from residential to commercial, so.
Okay. Councilmember Alvarado, you want to move to approve those?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes for the Planning Commission for July 18th, 2018.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. Next, Councilmember Osmus, accounts payable.
I just had a question on, I see that we're purchasing some Ford Explorers and that we are getting 4 of them from Atwater Ford, but we're purchasing another one from Ford of Hibbing. And I was just wondering why we didn't get all of our Ford Explorers from Atwater Ford.
Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The initial order for that first Ford Explorer was placed on the state bid from Ford from Hibbing. That occurred in January. That one was ordered. It took several months to take delivery of that. In the meantime, we waited on ordering the other vehicles that we were hoping to in 2018 for the police department. That's when the discussion came about searching for local vendors. Atwater Ford, Mills Ford were contacted, and they were comparatively priced. So we went for those next 4 from there, and we're still waiting for delivery for those.
Okay. I just didn't know if they were different, if they were from different departments and that if we were communicating. Okay.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the accounts payable July 12th through August 1st, 2018. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen. Aye. Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes as well. I did not receive a list of anybody wanting for the open forum, so is there nobody? Okay. Introduction of Willmar Fest royalty, Mr. James Miller. You're back in front of us again.
I am.
Great.
Mayor Calvin, members of the council, it's my honor to get out of the way so these 3 young ladies can introduce themselves. Since being crowned on June 23rd, they've already been making appearances on behalf of Willmar Fest in the city of Willmar. 18 of them. Did you realize it's that many? 18 different parades or coronations or special events that they've had an opportunity to get out to and talk about Willmar and to really show off what's great about what's happening in this community. We've had them really all over the state, having quite a bit of fun, but also doing some pretty important stuff on behalf of the city. So I will get out of the way, let them introduce themselves.
Hi, thank you so much for having us. I'm Carly Holstein, and I'm the 2019 Willmar Fest Aqua Princess.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm Stacy Banks, and I'm the 2019 International Princess.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. I'm the 2019 Willmar Fest Queen of Festivals, Leslie Alvarez.
Thank you so much. So would you like to tell us a little bit about some of the places you've went and what's been the most fun? And I'm sure you have to talk a little bit about food.
Well, I think by far my favorite has been the Aquatennial Torchlight Parade
All right.
in downtown Minneapolis, and everywhere we go. I mean, James, Morgan, and anyone who's chaperoning us has been really on top of it, keeping us fed because we ask for food a lot.
So
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much.
I think my favorite parade and activities and coordination was definitely Glenwood because their parade was really fun. The kids, me and Carly and Leslie, we all danced with the little kids and they love that on our floats. And also, they have really good food.
Yeah, like they said, going around to these different towns and different communities has been amazing to learn what's different about their communities and related to ours. But I think some of my favorite events are definitely the ones we've done in Willmar. Last week, we all went out to Rockin' Robins and just had a really good time, as girls. And then we had the junior royalty there with us too. So yeah, we do have fun in other communities, but definitely bringing it back to our community and really finding what we love about our community is definitely one of my favorite parts.
Great. Council, any questions? Well, I want to thank you for representing us well. I saw you out there dancing last week. You were doing a good job. Stacy, thank you for not coming and asking me to dance again. That was nice. But the story behind that is at the senior coronation, Stacy came and asked me to dance, and I told her I had 2 left feet. And I was chastised by all of the elderly ladies as I went through my food line to get my coffee and cake. And they said, when a pretty girl asks you to dance, you dance and don't ask questions. So I now have those marching orders, and I have rightly apologized to Stacy for that. And she's accepted my humble apology. But anyways, thank you for all you guys are doing. I watch you on Facebook, what you're doing. You guys are a good example for Willmar. We are so proud of you. We're so proud of what you're doing. We're so proud of how you represent Willmar and all the good things that are happening here. So keep on doing a good job. We really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Before they leave, can they give you a button
Yes, that'd be
valued at 99 cents?
Yes.
Okay, so make sure. All right.
And my understanding is, Mr. Miller, you would like us to wear them and represent Willmar Fest, correct? Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brand new.
Thank you very much.
All right, perfect. I love it. This might be a big responsibility for us to remember where we have those next year, James, so.
Oh, don't worry. We give them to you twice a year every year just to make
Oh,
sure.
perfect,
Yes.
perfect, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next, we'll open up our first hearing, which is the establishment of a new recreation department. I'll open the public hearing. Sam? Ms. Beckman?
Good evening. City charter does require that an ordinance be adopted in order to establish any new city department. So we do need to pass that prior to the WCER dissolution on September 1st.
Okay, again, this is an ordinance that's required by charter to, anytime that there's a new division within the city, we need to establish that. And again, as everybody's aware, September 1st, the Community Ed and Rec will dissolve, and our new department will be up and operating at that point. We have hired 1 staff member at this point, my understanding?
Correct, a part of the recreation department, yes.
Yes. And so this would be starting that. So with that, is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak? Seeing and hearing no public comments, I'll close the public hearing, bring it to council table. Council, what are your wishes?
I'll move to approve staff's recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve staff's recommendation to establish a new recreation department by ordinance. Discussion. Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Schwantes?
Aye.
Alvarado?
Aye.
Osmus?
Aye.
Maskey?
Aye.
Plowman?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye.
Christensen?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Next, I'll open the public hearing for an ordinance amending the municipal code establishing a process for disposal of surplus equipment. Mr. Scott, our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin, members of the City Council. Before you in your packet is an ordinance that establishes a process to declare certain equipment of the city surplus to the city's needs and to authorize its sale by any legal means, including at the annual city auction. So the city annually conducts an auction where it puts items of equipment deemed surplus up for sale. For the first time this year, it was determined that we should bring a list of that equipment to the city council for the council to consider it and declare those items of equipment surplus by resolution. This ordinance mirrors the process that was followed this year by city staff. It also, I understand it, does not change any practices that city staff has gone through in previous years. So the process is for any equipment to be sold in the auction or otherwise, it will be presented to the council. The council would have to approve it by resolution. Exempted from that process would be any items of forfeited property that come into the possession of the police department. The police department has separate statutory authority to dispose of those items. They sometimes do so in the public auction, but that wouldn't have to be included in the resolution. Also included is a provision that the sales are subject to the city's template purchase agreement that would protect the city from liability for any of these pieces of equipment sold. And it allows the city clerk to execute those contracts on behalf of the city. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, the recommendation is to adopt the ordinance, assign it a number, and publish it.
Okay. Anybody from the public who wishes to speak to the issue? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it to the city council. Council, what are your wishes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve an ordinance amending the municipal code establishing a process for disposing of surplus equipment, assign it a number, and publish it. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Next is consideration of a 2018 Small Cities Development Program. Ms. Jill Bankston from the Candidacy County City Willmar HRA. Ms. Bankston.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I believe all of you are aware that the city has been the recipient of a $1,205,177 grant from the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. And so tonight we need to discuss adopting policies and procedures that are required by the federal government because you are a recipient of HUD money. Just a quick little status update on where we are with the project before we get into all this. At this point, the state is waiting for their money from HUD. When they get their money from HUD, they're going to send out a contract to the city to sign for the program. There's also a contract that needs to be signed with the HRA. Need to adopt these policies. Your environmental review is complete, and DEED is reviewing that. If they are okay with all the backup documentation for the review, we'll publish the notice of intent to request funds. And then when that comment period is complete and DEED clears that, then we are ready to start taking applications from everybody on the waiting list. So at this point, we're probably, because they don't have their money and it'll take a while to get all that, it's probably going to be September or October before we're taking applications, November before we're making decisions. So there are a number of things that need to be adopted, and those things are a fair housing plan, a resolution adopting a displacement minimization plan and residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan, a resolution adopting a Section 3 plan, a resolution adopting a prohibition of excessive force policy, and a resolution adopting a program income and local income generated policy. And would you like me to quickly go through each of those resolutions, Mayor, or how?
If council would like that. You and I have talked a lot about it, so I'm pretty familiar with them, so.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, I guess for the public, that'd be good.
So adopting the Fair Housing Plan, because again, it's federal funding, there are federal laws around promoting fair housing law in the community. So this resolution that's in your packet would adopt the plan that's attached. And basically it's saying the city and the HRA will put up posters at City Hall, make people aware that there are fair housing laws. make the brochures available at city offices and HRA offices, letting people know fair housing is a right, and everybody has that right. Place a fair housing discussion on an agenda of a future council meeting. That'll go along with your second public hearing. And that the HRA will continue to incorporate the fair housing logo on HRA letterhead, rehab applications, outreach forms, and other documents for the program. The Adopting Displacement Minimization Plan and Residential Anti-Displacement and Relocation Assistance Plan. This resolution adopts a plan, so if people are temporarily displaced during construction, it just lists the kinds of activities that have to happen. So for example, number 2, utility shutoffs. If the project has to shut down water for the day, it'll be planned for the times most convenient to residents and business owners. It'll be during the business day when most people are at work, that type of thing. So that goes on and lists all the different types of things that'll happen. It also talks about what would happen if people are permanently displaced, and I guess I'll just note that we're not going to permanently displace anybody. We're not even going to temporarily displace anybody, or at least that's the plan. But if those things would happen, this outlines what we would do. Adopting a Section 3 plan, again, because it's federal funding. The Department of Housing and Urban Development requires grantees to have a plan in place to direct employment opportunities to people who are very low income or incomes less than 80% of the area median income. So first off, your contractors have to be lead licensed, certified contractors, and then we also ask them questions about, are they a Section 3 contractor? So that's your plan for that. And prohibition of excessive force. There was amendments in 1990 to the Community Development Act, the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974, that added certification and title protection of individuals engaging in non-civil rights demonstrations. And the 1990 Appropriations Act also added some language in there, and because of that, you're required to adopt a policy statement saying that law enforcement will not use excessive force within its jurisdiction against individuals engaged in nonviolent civil rights demonstrations. And finally, there's the program income and local income generated policy. So this is about, because people are signing repayment agreements, they're deferred for 7 years or 10 years if they're a business or a homeowner. However, in that time, if they sell, that money comes back into the city. And if we receive in any federal fiscal year more than $35,000, it's called program income. Less than $35,000 is local income, and this is basically saying we're going to then expend it again in the same way that you were granted the money for. We'll use it for homeowner and business rehab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that discussion. And again, now this project is for assisting homeowners in businesses in the downtown area that are on the district heat, assisting them with funding to do that. And then we have a rehab project in there as well. Could you explain the rehab project just a little bit?
That's
so
for
that our people
Hanson
know what's going on?
Apartments. Yeah,
Right.
so the rehab is for Hanson Apartments. So $600,000 of the funding goes to Hanson Apartments to help with rehabbing that.
Right.
It'll be acquired and rehabbed by the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. And just then one quick note on your pre-applications. You did receive 43 applications from homeowners and 38 applications from businesses. This program is only going to assist 13 homeowners and 13 businesses. People are still welcome to get on the wait list by contacting our agency, either myself or Sue Johnson at our agency. And we're happy to add them to the wait list, but our wait lists are real long, and we're going to have a lot of disappointed people that aren't going to get funded in this round.
But again, we have to remember that had we not applied for this, nobody would have gotten it. So it's a very good program. So, right. Okay. So the first thing would be a resolution adopting fair housing plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adopt the fair housing plan. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus,
Aye.
Meske,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. The next one is a resolution adopting the Displacement and Relocation Assistance Plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Meske.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Asmus.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next, a resolution adopting the Section 3 Plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Asmus.
Aye.
Meske.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution passes. Next is a resolution adopting the prohibition of excessive force policy.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could you elaborate on that? I heard you say that our police department would not use excessive force for such and such. We see that more and more today across the country, but could you elaborate on it and say, give us an example?
Should we have our police chief answer that, maybe? Chief Felt?
I guess I'm unaware of how this ties in with any of our, different from any of our policies at the police department regarding use of force. So.
I think the only point I wanted to make is this is about nonviolent civil demonstration, so it's very peaceful. There's nothing going on. I guess that's kind of the point of it.
It's for this project, correct?
Yeah.
And well, we see this happening across the country. And sometimes nonviolent turns into violent, and then because it's nonviolent, even though they're violent, they can't show up. I just question that policy. I don't know why a HUD, is it a HUD policy?
It is. It was passed by Congress in the 1990 Appropriations Act, and then it was an amendment to the 1974 Housing and Community Development Act.
And
Congressional.
has it always been part of the Small Cities Development Program? I mean, it's always been in all of them? It has? Have all 5 of them?
Yeah.
I'll be darned. First time I recall, we must not have discussed them in the past because we've done many small city development programs.
Yeah, I believe this is the first time it's been discussed.
I know the previous executive director had a lot of discussion prior to the council meetings, but I don't know enough history about all that.
Okay, well, it is what it is. Thank you.
Yep.
Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Asmus.
Aye.
Meske.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution passes. Next is a resolution adopting a Small Cities Development Program.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Asmus.
Aye.
Meske.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Jill, thank you. I look forward to the good work that's going to happen with this grant. I know that when you were putting this together, there was a lot of work and a lot of thought that went into it. So thank you for your leadership in guiding this project. And I know that the recipients will be very pleased with being funded. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Next is consideration of an ordinance to rezone land from R2 to GI. Bruce Peterson, our Planning and Development Director. This will be from residential 1 and 2 family to government institution.
Mayor Calvin, members of the council, the Community Christian School has requested that their property be rezoned from a residential classification to the government institution classification that is more typical for our schools. All our public schools are zoned GI, and it makes sense that we have a private school zone the same way. It's not governmental, but it is institutional. They are doing this in advance of planning for some future options at their site. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on July 18th and approved the request, forwarded on to the council. It's a recommendation of staff that this ordinance be introduced and that a public hearing be held on August 20th, 2018 to consider the formal ordinance.
I'll move staff's recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve consideration of an ordinance to rezone land from residential 1 and 2 family to government institutional. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen,
Aye.
Schwantes. Aye. Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Meski. Aye. Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson. Aye. 7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes as well. That's all we have for the agenda.
The additions to the agenda didn't get scheduled anymore.
Okay, I guess I did not do the additions to the agenda. I thought I had done them, but I did not. I apologize. Thank you, Councilmember Nelson. First up on would be the non-union base pay and health insurance for 2018-2019.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Before you is the resolution to approve the non-union employees' wages for 2018 through 2020, as well as the employer health insurance contributions to match all of the union contracts that have been signed and put into place. Are there any other questions from?
So this would be having our non-union base pay and health insurance basically mirror what our union contracts state. Is that correct?
Yep, exactly.
Council, what are your wishes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Schwantes. Aye. Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Meski,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson. Aye. Christensen.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Thank you, Sam. Next is Duluth Lake Superior Lighthouse. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you. We briefly just discussed moving the item forward with a thorough and formal letter of intent to the parties that be regarding the Duluth Lighthouse and beginning that process of vetting. And then based on the response that we get back, it will come back to the council table. So I would motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve a letter of intent or letter of interest to the Duluth Lake Superior Lighthouse project and allowing the mayor to sign on behalf of the city. Additional discussion. Councilmember Nelson.
It just might be helpful if, to elaborate on what this project is and why we're doing it. I'm not sure everybody is aware of what we're applying for.
Apologies, yes, because we did this at the work session, but not in the formalized meeting. Yes, this is just to expound on the idea that was originally presented by the Star Tribune that was displayed on their website and in their publication regarding the lighthouse facility and the actual beacon itself sitting atop the facility at the very end of the, I believe, the easternmost pier up in Lake Superior. And after doing various research and whatnot and talking to the Army Corps of Engineers along with some U.S. GSA contractors and service providers, they were able to provide us with the information that yes, in fact, this project is happening and they are taking applications and they're taking information right now in preliminary form so as to begin the process. And because the deadline is the end of this week, as Ms. Schwantes kindly noted, we would be, it would behoove us to move this forward as quickly as possible, and we can learn more as we get more information, and we can vet it for ourselves. So at the same time, submit the information to them, and if we make that first cut, so to speak, we will also have access to more information then, and it can come back to our table. We may discuss and make future decisions based on what we know.
Councilmember Maskey.
I was just going to say, this is an interest application. It does not mean that we are purchasing a lighthouse at this time, but we are interested in learning more about that process. So the headline should not be that we're buying a lighthouse yet.
Or accepting a free one.
Exactly.
You can go broke on free stuff, right? Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Schwantes. Aye. 7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes as well. That letter is being drafted by the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and when that is drafted, once the signatures are affixed, that will be shared with council. Be given to the city administrator to share with council. You probably should anticipate seeing that within the next day or two. I believe the letter's already drafted. We're just waiting for today's action. So we have on our council calendar by policy that we would have a work session if there's items for the work session. During the break between the work session and this meeting, I spoke with the city administrator. It is his recommendation, along with mine, that we move the items that were listed for the 13th work session to the 20th, and then negate the need for a meeting on the 13th. If council wishes to still have that meeting on the 13th, we can do that, but it's up to the council. So what would you wish to do?
20th.
20th.
Councilmember Nelson?
Well, I'll defer to the group. That's when we were planning to review the CIP items that didn't get completed, and also to have kind of a little finance workshop on budget items with that. So it's listed on our schedule as financial workshop, but I think we had talked about bringing back, since we didn't have a complete council members at the CIP, about reviewing that. But I don't know when we would do those items if we have all the rest of these listed, so.
They would be moved to the 20th, the meeting of the 20th. Tonight, we had 40 minutes between the two meetings. And if you take a look at the items we had on today's agenda was probably heavier than the agenda that we would have. I mean, the budget amendments, well, that'll be a lengthy discussion. And I would assume that the 292 master plan would be a considerable discussion. The others, I think, would go fairly quickly. Mr. Okens, do you know about how long you would need for your part on the financial update?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I mean, if you want to delay that, it would dictate basically, we were going to talk about the bonding and financing of projects and that type of discussion. So we would structure it based on the time allowed.
Okay, so 15, 20 minutes would cover it?
That would be fine.
Okay. Council, what do you wish to do?
Looks like that meeting's going to be full.
I'm sorry?
Looks like the 20th will be full.
The 20th will be a full night, right? I mean, so we'll have to start right at 5 o'clock, and that'll give us, an hour and 45 minutes to get through our work, but.
With all the budget things that are coming up, I guess I'm concerned about stacking things up with that, but I'll defer, and if we have to schedule something later, but you've got public meetings that you want scheduled in, is it September for the budget?
September, correct, yes.
Someone make the call.
13?
No.
13.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to suspend the work session for August 13th. Some
Second.
motion been made and seconded to suspend the work session for August 13th. Additional discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We will not have a work session on the 13th. I believe I had it 3 to 4. Is that what you had?
I had 2 for sure, for no, I
Roll
can't
call.
hear the third, so. Councilmember Osmus,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
No.
Christensen,
No.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
No.
Motion
So
passes.
4-3.
City Administrator comments.
Mayor and council, a couple messages tonight. Obviously, tomorrow night, we're having a Rockin' Robins concert. Hopefully, we're going to have good weather once again. I think we're having a record year this year, and it's been really great working out there and seeing the excitement with everybody. A great event for our park and for our community. Secondly, we have the employee pool party was scheduled this weekend. Unfortunately, it was rained out. So I talked with staff this morning, and we will be rescheduling. I have to check out some logistics before I announce that date and time, but I hope to do so this week. Lastly, just a reminder, I don't think I need to, but I will, the county fair is this week. And thank you, Mayor.
Under mayor's announcements, we do have our elections happening on the 14th. That is happening next week, the primary. And so be informed voters and get out and vote. And make sure you do your research and find out what candidate best represents you. I did attend the forum that was put on by the League of Women Voters for the county positions, and it was very informative. There were 7 people there. It was a very good conversation. The room was packed. I think there was probably only maybe 5 or 6, 7 chairs that were open, but it was a good exchange of information, and it's interesting. We have a lot of local races that are on the ballot this time around, and so make sure and get out and be an informed voter. Again, I would just encourage everybody to come to Rockin' Robins tomorrow night. They've been good events. The weather's been great the first 3 nights. Hopefully, we'll have another good night tomorrow. The food has been fabulous. It's been wonderful. And the camaraderie and the conversations that happen out there are just really great. I've seen a number of you at those, and it's encouraging to see everybody there and all the people. I think last week, I'm sure we hit over 4,000 people last week, so that was very good. So with that, I'll go to council member announcements, starting with council member Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to remind people that we have National Night Out tomorrow night, and I know we're going to have a get-together at Garfield, so if you're available, please stop by. We normally put on a pretty good program out there, so hope to see you there. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Osmus.
I just wanted to thank Public Utilities. They had a fabulous open house last Thursday, and it looked like they had a good turnout. I was there for part of it, and they do a great job, and it was a good event.
Thank you. Councilmember Miskey.
I'll pass.
Councilmember Plowman.
Just to segue from what you said, a lot of people think about the elections in November, but because of the amount of candidates that we have running in primaries, it's really important that people remember, although it may take you 3 minutes on the way to work or whatever, 5 minutes on the way to work, it's important to stop and exercise your right to vote, because that's who we are as a society. That's how our democratic republic works, and that's how we do things. So it's important that people remember to go do that.
Councilmember Nelson.
I'll pass.
Councilmember Christensen.
I'm truly amazed at the number of people attending the Rockin' Robins. That just blows me away. I am just I think tomorrow night will probably be a record. The armadillos, fabulous armadillos are always a good, pardon me?
Famous, yeah.
Famous, yeah. They always put on a good show I am just amazed, and I'll see you there tomorrow night.
Perfect. Councilmember Schwantes.
Pass, thank you.
At this point, we'll go into executive session. The council will go into closed meeting pursuant to Minnesota State Statute 13D.05 sub 3 to determine the asking price for real property to be sold by the city and/or develop or consider offers or counteroffers for the purchase of real property. The closed session of the council will be held. Sorry, that's all I need to read at this point. The agenda item for this portion of the regular meeting is to determine the asking price for real property to be sold by the city and or develop or consider offers or counteroffers for the purchase of real property identified as parcels numbers 95-920-0010 and 95-920-0035. The legal basis for closing our meeting, portions of the properly noticed regular meeting of the City Council will be closed pursuant to Minnesota State Statute Section 13D.05 sub 3C. I'll now entertain a motion to recess into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Although we are in closed session. Motion's been made and seconded. We are adjourned.